Welcome back to the Developer Odyssey series, episode number 9, entitled Before You Write a Line of Code. If this is the first video in this series that you're watching, I would suggest that you click the link down below that'll take you to the playlist where you can start back at the beginning and watch it all the way through. Of course, you can always skip around in this series wherever you want, or even in this video wherever you want. But I do encourage you to watch the whole thing through, as we have a process that we're going through here, adding these videos every Wednesday and Friday to this playlist. So certainly feel free to take advantage of that opportunity. But today we're going to be talking about this topic of what exactly is coding? What exactly is programming? See, whenever you think about a career or we think about a job that you want to take, it's a good idea to try to figure out what it's going to look like to actually do that job. So, for example, you might want to shadow somebody that works at the place that you want to work, or that does the type of job that you want to do. If you're wanting to be a doctor, you probably want to go visit a hospital or go visit a doctor's office and kind of see what they do from a day-to-day basis, and just kind of watch and see if there's anything about what they do that, may be a shock to you, or maybe something that you don't want to do. For example, if you're looking at being a nurse and you shadow a nurse and they're dealing with all different types of bodily fluids and shots and things like that, and you may realize that's not for me. So it's a good idea for you to get an idea and understanding of what it's going to actually look like to do the job on a daily basis. And really, that's kind of the whole goal of this entire series, is to help you understand from start to finish what it's going to look like to go through this process of becoming a developer. But specifically in this video, I just want to take some time and talk about what is programming, because a lot of times you get these advertisements that talk about how you can become a developer in X number of days or X number of weeks, and they make it sound like this magical thing that you're just going to automatically be able to learn because anybody can do it. And while I do agree in some sense that most people probably could learn how to write code, it's important to understand what code is and how we actually use it, and decide if that's something that you think that you can actually do. I think you can, and that's why I'm making this series, to try to help encourage you along the way and help give you information so that you can make wise decisions for your career as a junior developer. But I haven't noticed a lot of people actually really talking about what it means to program, what it means to write code. There's almost this assumption that you just know what it is. And I think it's good, as we go through this journey, as we go through this process, to actually talk about what it means to write code. And so this should hopefully be a fairly short video, but hopefully one that is helpful. Maybe you'll be able to learn something from it that you didn't know before, or they hadn't thought about when it comes to writing code or programming. At its most basic level, writing code is basically just giving instructions. It's basically telling something what you want it to do. That's all that writing code is. It's giving instructions to a computer or to some sort of system to have it do something, right? So it could be something as simple as printing "Hello World" onto the screen, or it could be some very deep, machine learning process that goes through millions and millions of rows of data and tries to figure out the best scenario. Or we're in the NFL playoffs right now, and so maybe it's AWS going through all of the potential options for the schedule for next year or something like that. So it can be something very simple. It can be something very, very complex. But at the end of the day, when we're writing code, all we're doing is we're telling a computer or a machine of some sort something to do. We're giving it a set of instructions. Now, that may not sound like a very difficult thing, and it may sound like I'm trying to make it a little bit too elementary, but it really is just making instructions. The problem is, not everybody is very good at making instructions. In fact, I've taught a couple of courses to different classes on development and web development, things like that. And one of the things that I like to do to help people understand this idea of coding before we even start coding, before we even write a line of code, whether it's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, Java, C Sharp, whatever, before you write any line of code, it's good to understand how you need to think as a developer, because really most of the job is thinking. It's not really writing code. It's thinking the right things so that you can give the right instructions to the computer so that the computer knows what it's supposed to do, whether that's to render a website or whether that's to run this long process and update a bunch of data or anything in between. You've got to understand how the computer processes information, and you've got to be able to give instructions in a way that it's going to be able to do the thing that you want it to do. The biggest struggle with this is learning to not think in large sections of ideas, but to think in all the very small steps that need to happen. And that's really the key. You need to be able to think through all the little pieces of that program that need to run. It's almost like if you were giving instructions to a very literal person. So maybe somebody who doesn't speak your language, and you're giving instructions in either your language, which they don't understand very well, or you're trying to give instructions in their language, which you don't understand very well. And so you have to be very detailed and make sure you give them all the right information so that they can complete that task. One of the things that I like to do is have junior developers write out instructions for making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now, most of us have probably made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, unless you're allergic to nuts or something like that. Most of us have made a sandwich of some sort. It's not a very difficult task to do, but because it's not difficult, because we're familiar with it, when we're asked to give instructions to somebody, we don't always give very detailed instructions. We'll say something like, take 2 pieces of bread, put some peanut butter on it, put some jelly on it, put the pieces of bread together, something like that. And while those are valid instructions, it's not really complete instructions. See, if you're telling somebody everything that they need to do, they'll be able to do it. But if you give somebody those instructions and they just don't have maybe the cognitive ability to think for themselves, which is machines, they don't have the cognitive ability to think for themselves. So if you're telling somebody like that how to make a sandwich, they're going to be really messed up when they don't even know what to do with this bag of bread, right? This loaf of bread. You told them to take 2 slices. Well, how are they going to get 2 slices? So you've got to be very detailed in your process, in your thinking, so that you can communicate to the computer or to the system or software or whatever you're writing your code for. You've got to think in detail so that you can give all the information that you need. So you'd have to do something as detailed like open the bag of bread, pull out 2 slices of bread, right? Lay the slices on the counter, or probably on a plate would be better. So where'd the plate come from? Okay, now we gotta, okay, open the cupboard, pull out a plate, right? Hopefully you're seeing how you have to be extremely detailed if you're really going to give somebody all the steps to make that sandwich. Put the peanut butter on the slice of bread. Well, they have a jar of peanut butter and they put it on the slice of bread. That's a very literal interpretation of what you said, and that's what computers do. And that's one of the reasons I think that we run into so many bugs as developers, is because we think in very abstract ways. We're able to kind of take different ideas and put them together and understand concepts, but a computer is not like that. A computer is there to follow the exact instructions that we give. So while in our mind it makes sense for us to give fewer instructions, really, the computer needs more instructions. It needs every single detail told how it should do the thing that you want it to do. Now, that's programming in general. And then you have to think about the fact that there are many, many different languages. So not only do you have to be able to tell a computer what to do just from a thinking standpoint, you've got to be able to create all those different steps. But even more importantly than that, you've got to be able to do it in the right language. I can't tell you how many times I've been switching back and forth between JavaScript and PHP, and I start writing code in my PHP file that's actually JavaScript and it errors out. I'm trying to figure out what the problem is, and it finally dawns on me, duh, this is JavaScript. I'm writing JavaScript in my PHP code. So the language matters. Every operating system, every machine is going to have a different language, whether it's a web server, whether it's a robot, whatever it is, they're going to run off of different languages. So not only do you need to know how to give clear instructions and accurate instructions so that the computer or the robot or the website or whatever it is can do the thing that you want it to do, you've got to make sure you're giving those instructions in the right language. I can tell my children what to do all day long, but if I'm speaking in Japanese, they're not going to understand because they don't know Japanese. Of course, I don't know Japanese either, so I don't know how I'd be speaking in it, but you get my point. So not only do you have to be able to think in details and give instructions in details, not only do you have to be able to learn different structures of those languages to be able to do it the right way for each language, but you also have to realize that this takes planning. And that's the part that a lot of junior developers really don't understand right away. You need to be able to sit down and plan out what you want to do. A lot of people just want to jump in and start writing code, and they get in the middle of their code, and then they got to go back and change other things and fix something here and change that, and then sometimes they have to completely rewrite most of what they've written because they didn't think about something that they should have thought about. If they'd have taken a few minutes before they started working on the code and planned it out. So you need to be a good communicator of information, a good writer of languages, and you need to be able to plan out what it is you want it to do so that the computer does the right thing. Because at the end of the day, all a computer is an input-output system. And what you tell it to do is going to determine whether or not it does the correct thing. And that all comes down to how you write out your instructions with the right language in the right way, planned out from the very beginning as much as you can. Now, can you plan everything? No, I mean, nobody's going to think of everything every time right before they write code. That's just part of learning to code. And you're going to learn as you go how to get better at thinking through some of those things so that you can write better code from the start. But you're going to need to take time and plan it out. Think about it. Think it through. What is the best way for me to write these instructions so that the computer does what I'm wanting it to do? So before you write a line of code, understand what programming is, understand what it's going to take for you to be able to write a proper program before you even start learning how to code or on what all those languages are, making sure you understand what exactly is involved, that you're okay with thinking through the process of writing out these instructions. And then make sure that you're the type of person who can sit down and plan something out before you just get into it, because that'll save you a lot of time and it will make you a better developer quicker. Hopefully this video has been a help to you, and if you've enjoyed it, I'd appreciate it if you'd click the like button. Of course, if you're not subscribed, please click the subscribe button and the bell icon so you're notified the next time we upload a video to this series, or maybe one of our standalone videos, which is usually on Monday. But we'll upload every Wednesday and Friday to this series, so make sure you click that bell icon to be notified the next time we upload one, and I'll see you then.